Okay, so we're going to do the second half now of Perek Lametet, chapter 39. Just want to give a brief introduction about spiritual reward. As you know, Sachar mitzvot b'hai al maleka, the rabbis tell us there is no reward, the real reward for the mitzvah, for the fulfillment of the mitzvah in this world. It is a spiritual type of reward, and therefore it can only be reserved for Olam Haba, for the afterlife, for the world to come. A spiritual reward meaning that it's something that we cannot even imagine what it is. Because in this world we experience physical pleasures, and this is something about a spiritual type of pleasure. And the mitzvah being something spiritual in nature as well, even though we are perfecting and we're doing something in this physical world, nonetheless some of it is affecting the upper worlds as well. And it is something that we cannot see. We're told and we believe that our actions are very meaningful in this world and in the worlds above. And this is the way Hashem designed the world, that man should perform, and later on he will be rewarded. In other words, the world to come, the Gan Eden, does not come free. It comes as a result of our actions. Therefore, our actions are very important, not just for the stability of this world, not only so that we can get along and live a good life here, but also because it is man, the crown of creation, that Hashem wants that he should bring the light of Hashem into this physical world through his actions. So it is important, of course, that we have the right kavanah, as we will be seeing soon, the right thoughts. But thoughts alone are almost not going to do anything. It is only when we do a mitzvah, physically perform something along with the proper kavanah, that completes the mitzvah in the purest way possible. However, even when we do something in a complete way with the kavanah, as we will see, there are various levels of kavanah, various levels of intent. What exactly do we have in mind? Did we do when we did it? Did we focus properly on it or not? In order to impress upon us this very important principle in Judaism, that there is sechar mitzvot, that there is reward for the mitzvot, the rabbis tell us, you want to have an idea, just an idea what it's like. There's one moment of pleasure in Olam Haba, in Olam Hamet, in the real world, just one moment of pleasure there in the spiritual realm is greater, that pleasure is greater than all the pleasures that you can imagine having in this world. Imagine having everything you ever dreamt of. Endless pleasure, every day and night of your life. It still does not come close to the pleasure that one will have if he deserves it in the world to come. On the other hand, they tell us that one moment, 1 hour here, in performing good deeds, in observing the mitzvot, is greater than all of Olam Haba, greater than all the world to come. How could that be? We just finished saying that one moment of pleasure there is greater than all the pleasure here for even 1,000 years. On the other hand, we're saying something very different. One moment here in observing the Torah and mitzvot, in fulfilling what the Torah says, in doing good deeds, that moment, that hour of life here is more precious than the entire world to come. Because in the world to come, one can no longer do any mitzvot. That's it. It's over. That's the time to enjoy the fruit of our labor. This is the time, la'asotam. This is the time that we have, everyone according to the amount of years that he spends here. This is what was given to him as a chance and opportunity to earn that reward. So for every moment that one has here, he should be thankful. As I've spoken about it on the topic of euthanasia, when sometimes people think that they're doing a favor to the sick individual who's going to die anyway, who's perhaps in some pain. Just let him go quickly. They have no idea what every extra moment of life in this world is doing for that soul. But it's pain. Yeah, even pain. Because the rabbis tell us that pain in this world is a kapara, is a great atonement. You'd rather want to be cleansed here than have to be cleansed over there. In order to properly enjoy and have the purest form of pleasure, miziva shechina, from that ray of Hashem, the soul has to be clean. If the soul is still dirty with sin, it cannot properly enjoy. The potential that it has, therefore, can only be reached after it is cleansed. It is a tremendous favor for the soul, for the neshama, that it goes through cleansing, whether in this world or in the world to come, or through a Gilgul reincarnation. It is all chesed. Everything Hashem does is kindness, out of love for us. He wants us to get the maximum. Still, even though I just finished saying that pain is something good, there was a great rabbi who once expressed in the Gemara, Lo midufshech velo meuktzech. When it comes to pain and suffering, even though it helps us, I'd rather not have the honey and not have the sting. In other words, the only way to get the honey is to be stung by the bee. I'd rather not have the honey and not have the sting. In other words, because if you don't have to go through the pain, pain is something that is very difficult to bear. Really. There's some very, very painful situations that people go through. But if you're already going through it, if you have no choice, you're already experiencing the pain, then just remember that pain is an atonement, and it will be a tremendous help. As the Chafetz Chaim used to say, when the neshama reaches upstairs, and it realizes only then how much good it derived from all the pain that it suffered here. He says, I wish I had more, because then I would have been completely clean and perhaps been able to go directly to my resting place. We don't realize that, but that's what ultimately the purpose of pain is. It's not revenge, it's not really a punishment, the way other religions look at it. Hashem is kind. All the souls are from Him. He gave us life. He's not revengeful in any way. It is a way to cleanse us, to prepare us to be able to cleave to Him completely in the most intense way possible. And of course that would depend according to our efforts, our intent, and how clean we are. And in order to be able to get to that level of being clean, we sometimes have to go through some rectification, as it's called in Hebrew, tikkun. Before we go on to the second half of the chapter, I'm just going to briefly tell you that he's going to talk a little bit about all kinds of kavanot, all kinds of kavanot that we've spoken about before in chapter 38. We know that they make a difference. Nonetheless, there's various levels of them, how focused one is, how serious he is about what he does. But there are also different levels of neshamot, which we saw, depending if they're from the Olam Atzilut, from the world of Atzilut, from Bria, from Yetzirah, because ultimately their level of performance does show, to some extent, from which world they are. As he told us, Olam Atzilut is such a high level that the performance of the tzaddikim in this world, whose neshama is from there, is a form of merkava, like a chariot. So in tefillah, in prayer itself, prayer is a ladder. Various steps, various rungs to this ladder. And various sections of the tefillah, of the prayer, correspond to the different worlds to which they are relating to. So for example, the first part of the prayer, before Baruch She'amar, corresponds to Olam HaAsiyah. After Baruch She'amar, which is Psukei de Zimra, the portion of praise to Hashem, corresponds to Olam HaYetzirah. The portion of Shema corresponds to Olam HaBriyah, and the portion of Shmoneser, or the Amidah, corresponds to Atzilut. So the Amidah, in some ways, is the highlight. The Shema is also a highlight, but that is where one stands with his feet closed, with a totally different kind of focus, different kind of mode of expression. And even the Amidah itself is divided into various parts. But Kabbalistically, that time and that portion of the prayer that we're standing before Hashem corresponds to the higher world, the Olam HaAtzilut. So what that means is that it's a very, very propitious time. The connection is a different kind of connection, perhaps you can say. And that is a little bit what he's going to talk about now here too, that there are individuals who, even though they are tzaddikim from Olam HaBriyah, they can attain at certain moments of their life a level that rises to a higher world, to Olam HaTzilut. So for example, he says like this, it possibly could be that one is not on the level of Atzilut. It's very, very, very likely actually that he's not from the Olam HaTzilut. And his neshama, the shoresh of his neshama, is a lot smaller in its potential and its capability of being able to perform an avodat tamah, a complete work, complete service of Hashem, in the same way that the tzaddik from Atzilut could do it, as a merkava, which means really that his performance, his mitzvot, are completely mitbatel and nichlal, and included, annulled and included in the light of Hashem through his continuous service at all times. It could still be that this individual who's not on that high level still could, at certain propitious times, as in the Amidah, and at other very special times. These times correspond to Atzilut, as we said. It is possible that he may be able to connect to that level. He may be able to rise to that level, especially, he says, during the Ishtachava'ah, the 4 times that we bow our head in the Amidah, which is even extra special because the Ishtachava'ah itself, the bow itself, is a form of nullification, of being subservient, of completely letting go, which is a bchina of Atzilut, which is an aspect of Atzilut, as it is further explained in the Pri Etz Chaim. Because it is a form of uniting, of being batel, being nullified in his light. Still, even though this individual may be able to connect or may be able to rise to that level momentarily, he's still in Olam HaBriyah, from where he's from, assuming that his neshama is from there. He still remains or belongs to Olam HaBriyah. That's where his neshama is from. And only at times, and at certain propitious moments, does his neshama connect. In other words, he's telling us that it is possible for that to happen momentarily, to connect to the higher level of Atzilut through certain prayers at certain times, but still, the neshama remains where it is from, in Olam HaBriyah. This idea, by the way, he says, of being able to connect, of being able to arouse something that reaches to the higher world, is called in the Kabbalah Mayim Nukvim, female waters. It's a very known concept in the Kabbalah, and it basically is similar in concept to what we know as Itaruta deletata. Itaruta deletata in Aramaic means an awakening from the bottom. An awakening from the bottom, and it was an awakening done by us in this world, awakens or causes or brings about an awakening dela'ila in the upper worlds. So by having the Mayim Nukvim, by having the female waters rise, they in turn are able to draw the Mayim Dechurim, the male waters. Male waters come down. They are mashpia. The blessing is awakened, or is drawn to come into this world through actions being performed here. There are times, of course, that Hashem does things on his own without any itaruta deletata. A good way of understanding this is the sun. The sun continues to shine on its own, regardless of what we do. But let's say you want the heat or the light from a natural fire. So you put some wood or you put some coals, and you are able to get the light and the heat that you've been wanting. But at some point that's going to finish. It's going to end. It's not going to be lit on its own. It is through our actions that we are deriving heat or light from this fire that we made or that we caused. See? So Hashem has, of course, the sun to continuously shine on us. Hashem can continuously on His own initiate and bring about beracha into this world, and He does. But there is another level, another dimension, called Mayim Nukvim, Itaruta Deletata, that through our actions we're able to bring about tremendous, tremendous beracha and sheva into this world. Hashem, of course, wants us to do that. So, there are certain actions, there are certain tefillot, there are certain propitious times that lend themselves to be able to bring about this itaruta deletat on a very high level, reaching onto Olam HaAtzilut. So after telling us this, he goes back to what we saw in the previous chapter, chapter Lamed Chet, about the kavanot. If you recall, we spoke about the two basic types of kavanot. One type of intent is a higher level intent because it is as a result of a reflection, of a deep reflection on Hashem, on the greatness of Hashem, where one uses his mind to ponder the greatness of Hashem, where he thinks about it and realizes the importance of it, appreciates it. He connects to it through his sechel, through his mind, but in a very, very powerful way. And there's one who doesn't really connect. He has it built in him, as we said, inherited, something natural almost to him, that is occasionally awakened, but a very, very, very low key, very, very superficial type of love and fear for Hashem that is no way close to the other one. Because you can see the difference in not only in their performance, but in what they feel. The person, the individual, the neshama that was able to think about it and reflect on it in a powerful way, it obviously leaves a greater impression on him. Besides that the mitzvah is done differently. It is powerful. He feels it. He's excited about it. As opposed to the other one who may just be okay with it, he's comfortable, he understands a little bit what it means, and occasionally maybe he even sheds a tear because somehow he's aroused. But it's not at all times, it's not as strong, not as intense, not as deep, because not that much work went into it. So that we spoke about. So one, he says, is on the level of high, and one is on the level of medaber. If you recall, just like we have the domem, tzomeh, chaim, medaber, the various levels of creations, one being inanimate, one being plant life, one being living, like animals, and one being speech, the human being being on the highest level. So the one that does not have so much kavanah, or very simple kavanah, is a form of high. He's living. And the one who really thinks about it, who ponders it, reflects on it, is a higher form of kavanah compared to medaber. So in order for us to understand the difference of the kavanot, he also elaborated a little bit on the different types of worlds. Because it is, after all, in those worlds where the neshama will receive its reward. So in order for us to understand what is awaiting them in those worlds, what kind of a spiritual reward, we have to understand, first of all, the difference in kavanah. Because it's going to be the kavanah that will make a big difference. Two individuals performing the same mitzvah, two different kinds of kavanah. The greater the effort, the rabbis tell us, the greater the reward. The harder you work, the more reward. So in order for us to have a better idea, to have greater clarity as to what this reward will look like, we have to understand how different the worlds are, and how different, therefore, the neshama's experience in those worlds will be according to the garment, as we say, according to the type of kavanah that it dressed up onto the mitzvah. And as he goes on to explain, that is the meaning of schar mitzvah mitzvah. In the end, the reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. It's what you make it to be. It's not like a salary. Somebody is working for you or for someone else. He has a job. He's paid a salary. That salary does not reflect on the quality of his work. He gets paid regardless. By the hour, by the day, by the month. It's not going to make a difference so much the quality In the mitzvah, it's going to make a big difference because it's the mitzvah itself that's going to be the reward. And how he performed it. The mitzvah is the sachar. And from the reward of the mitzvah in the afterlife, one will be able to see the quality and the level of the mitzvah that was performed. How? I guess through that intense light that will shine from the mitzvah and will be revealed in the afterlife to the neshama. In other words, it will become apparent only then, the greatness of his mitzvot, the greatness of his deeds, of his ma'asim. He goes on to say that we cannot really talk too much about Atzilut, what goes on in the world of Atzilut, and the sachar, the reward of the neshamot from Atzilut, the way they do their ma'asim, we know it's like a merkava, but we don't really have, he says, Anistarot Lashem Elokenu, as the pasuk says, Lanu en lanu esed benistarot, he says, we have no business with hidden matters. And neshamot from Atzilut and all that pertains to them is equivalent to hidden matters. In other words, we don't really have too much understanding on this level of Avodat Hashem. Rak aniglot lanu. In other words, only that which is revealed to us is what we need to pursue and what we need to aspire to acquire, or to attain, I should say. And what is that? We have to know the difference. He says, we have to have clarity in understanding the essence, the various levels of Avodat Hashem, b'techilu urechimu, with the love and with the fear of Hashem, that on a high level would be b'itgalut libo. On a high level, that would be that the love and fear of Hashem is revealed. We actually feel it. We're actually excited about it. We actually identify with it. And this is derived, comes from the reflection that we use our binah and da'at, we use our understanding to ponder the greatness of Hashem. It says, this is something that we can relate to, this is something that we need to have clarity, that this is the ideal service of Hashem, b'dechilu urechimu, with the fear, with the proper fear and love for Hashem in a more complete way. Because in doing so, in achieving this level connects to the 10 sefirot of Beriah, as opposed to the other kavanah. The other kavanah or the other avodah, service of Hashem, that is done b'dechilu urechim. Also, with a certain level, low level of fear and love of Hashem, that is tiv'im, that are natural. In his mind, we're not talking about feelings right now in the heart, we're talking about a certain level, low key of fear and love of Hashem that is in his mind, that are connected to the Yud Sefirot, or that connect to the Yud Sefirot, to the 10 Sefirot in Yetzirah. Okay? So, what do we see so far? That these are the two types, the regular two types of kavanah. In other words, there is some kavanah, but it's not as strong. It doesn't produce the same effect on one's heart. It's not, the lower one is not coming as a result of reflecting on the service of Hashem. And therefore, it's something more natural that is there. Occasionally it is awakened, and it does more perhaps than at other times, but it's still not the same as the one that is on the level of connecting to the 10 Sefirot of Beriah, which is coming about through thinking about it, and not just being aware about it. See the difference? What is awareness? That you need to have for sure, at the very least, certain awareness. But what is awareness? It's not something that awakens. It's not something that produces an excitement where one is so motivated to do the will of Hashem on the level of excitement. He is, Baruch Hashem, led, directed to doing the mitzvah because he understands that this is the right thing to do. He identifies with it. There is an awareness in his brain. He's not just a robot, but he's very close to being a robot. As we will soon see, it might be something that he does as a result of a routine. And that's not so good. It's not so healthy, because it is it really stumps his growth. Perhaps we can say that. He's able to grow a lot more by putting in the most kavanah that we can into the mitzvah. Remember, it does something to us too. Every mitzvah does something for us. The more so if that mitzvah is done completely. In other words, purely. The Shem Shammai for the sake of heaven. It is much more powerful. But now he goes on to something else. But let's say a service of Hashem, Avodat Hashem, that is done without any Torerut, without any awakening. In other words, no awareness, no dechilu v'rechimu, no love and fear of Hashem in his moach, in his brain. In other words, there's not even that minimal awareness to awaken the love and fear of Hashem that are naturally there. In other words, somebody that does something casually. So when you do something casually, you're definitely not aware of what you're doing. You're doing a mitzvah, you were told to do it. That's called avodah v'li orerut, without any awakening whatsoever. In other words, with no intent, without even a try, no attempt to awaken even the love that is ingrained, that is implanted naturally in our heart. He doesn't do anything to try to bring that out into the open. Because when a person has a little bit of a kavanah, he tries, he understands it's important, then he tries something to bring it out. It may not come out in the open as much as the higher level, that he really feels and experiences it, and he's excited about it. But here we're talking about an individual that doesn't even try. It's just completely plain, bland. Doesn't do anything to bring it out into the open. In other words, that he should have at the very least some awareness in his brain and in the concealed parts of his heart, as he calls it, betalumot libo. In other words, at least something should be felt, or something should be he should be made aware of. No, that does not happen. This is really not too good, because even the low-level awareness, what that does for the individual is that it produces at least a haskama, as I would call it in Hebrew. It produces a certain readiness, a nechonut. He agrees, he understands that this is the right thing to do, that this is what is expected of him to do. He doesn't even challenge it. He identifies with it. Doing something in a bland way without any torerut is very, very lacking. And when a person does a mitzvah where the heart, where the love for Hashem and the fear of Hashem in the heart are not really moved at all, not awakened at all, but remain the same as they were from the very beginning before he performed the mitzvah. In other words, they were not even influenced in any way possible from any level or minimal of love or fear of Hashem. This type of avodah remains down here below and doesn't go upstairs. Not only does it remain here below, it remains in what he calls olam hapirud, which describes the outer world, the world that's apart, because it does not connect upstairs with the olamot elyonim. It does not connect with the sefirot. It's called chitzoniut haolamot, the external part of the world. Sefirot are called the pnim of the olamot. The sefirot, the emanations of Hashem, are the actual internal parts of this world, the makeup of this world. And here you have something that is so lacking, it stays behind. It stays outside, it's apart. It doesn't get close to going upstairs, to be included in the sefirot. So as a result of that, since these types of actions are completely lacking, they don't have the power ever to be included biyichudo itbarach with Hashem, which is basically the 10 sefirot akidoshot, and that's why, because they don't have that power to be included, they stay behind. As it's further described and explained in the Zohar, in the Tikkunim, that without the chilu and rechimu, without the fear and love of Hashem, these mitzvot lo parcha le'ela, they don't fly upstairs. V'lo yachla lesalka u'lemekam kadam Hashem, and they cannot go up and stand before Hashem. They stayed behind. It's like nothing was accomplished, almost. I mean, it's not that he didn't do anything at all, but what he could have done, what he could have accomplished, is a lot more had he had just a little bit of kavanah, just the minimal kavanah. And because it is completely lack of kavanah, it just remains down here below and almost has no effect. In other words, he may have fulfilled his obligation, let's say. At least he did something. It's not that he didn't do it at all. But to do something without having the kavanah, what did we say last time? It's like a goof without a neshama. It's dead. It's like a body without a soul. That means it could not achieve what it's supposed to achieve. Later on in the Tanya, we will see, he explains how the love and fear of Hashem are like the wings of the service of Hashem. Because they are the ones that make the mitzvah rise to the highest levels. This individual right now that we're talking about that did not put any kavanah, is even if he just did it without any kavanah whatsoever. We're not talking about somebody that does a shelo lishma, which is worse, as we will see. Somebody that does not do it for the sake of Hashem. He does it for his own self-aggrandizement. Lichvodo, for some interest, for some pniyah. He has some agenda. That's worse. We're talking about somebody that just didn't do it for nothing, for no reason whatsoever. Just did it out of habit. Still, it doesn't go up. Because there was no kavanah, it just doesn't fly anywhere. This is what the Prophet complained about, he says. This is similar to what the Prophet says, "Vatihi yiratam oti mitzvat anashim melumada." Their fear for me, Hashem says through the Prophet, was a routine form of performance. A performance that they were trained to do, that they were taught to do. Not that they wanted to do it on their own. So, this is not a real fear of Hashem. This is not real service of Hashem. It's just routine. And why are they doing this routine? Because from when they were little children, they were taught by their parents or by their teachers to do so. So it's not like they want to do it on their own. They were trained like that from when they were young. And they're not doing it lishma. They're not doing it for the sake of Hashem, l'shem shamayim. Why can't you do it l'shem shamayim? If you're doing it, why can't you ever do it l'shem shamayim? Because he adds, to do it lishma is not possible without the minimal itorerut, the minimal awakening of love and fear. If the minimal awakening of love and fear does not come about, if it's not there, it's impossible. How could somebody do something for the sake of Hashem? Such pure thoughts, such a strong devotion and desire to do the will of Hashem, if there's no little bit, the minimal level of love and fear. And he compares this to a friend who does something that his friend asked of him to do. The only reason why he would do it for that friend is because either he likes him and he wants to do what he asks him for, or he fears him, and that is why he wants to do it. He says the same thing with the service of Hashem. You cannot do it, he says, lishmo, for Hashem's sake, without some sort of zikaron, itorerut, some sort of remembrance, some sort of awakening of the love and fear for him. In other words, if that love and fear is not awakened, even in the minimal way, it is not revealed in the moach, then how could it be that this individual really will do something for the sake of happening? He's doing it because it's a routine, not because he really believes in it so much, because he wants it. Look how the lack of kavanah makes so much of a difference. This is not service of Hashem, he says. This just stays behind, down here below. So this is an important idea. Without kavanah, the minimal kavanah, there can never be l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven. And therefore, he says, even love, something that is done out of love for Hashem, is not a complete avodat Hashem if there's no yir'ah accompanying with it. If there's no fear of heaven accompanying that service of Hashem, There could be love there, but it's incomplete. It cannot be called completely service of Hashem. We're talking about the minimal type of fear, even. The fear that is ingrained in the hearts of every Jew. Why? Because the love for Hashem could be like a child loves his father. Yes, Dad, I'll do it for you. But where is the fear of the servant to his master? That's another level of devotion, of willingness to do something. The fear that the servant has for his master. So having ahava and not having yirah is also not a complete avodah, not a complete service of Hashem. In other words, this kind of avodat Hashem with just the basic love is missing too. The connection is not as strong. It's not complete. Okay, so far we have seen this third type of individual that does not have any kavanah whatsoever. How it's very lacking, it doesn't fly anywhere, and it just stays behind. There's something worse, which I briefly mentioned now, and that is the one who does a mitzvah, shelo lishma, not for the sake of heaven. Not that he does not have a kavanah, he has the wrong kavanah. He's doing it for ulterior motives, it's called in English. Yesh lo pniya, for some personal interest, some personal gain, some agenda that he has. What would be an example? Let's say, as he explains, his idea of learning Torah is because he wants to be a Talmid Chacham. He wants to show off. He wants to be a scholar. He wants to be a knowledgeable person so that everybody should respect him. That is his entire intent in the learning of his Torah. Remember, we're talking about mitzvot in general, but we're also talking about how one learns Torah, and as he will soon see, add how one prays to Hashem. All of this can make a difference whether there's kavanah, the right kavanah, or there's no kavanah, or the wrong kavanah. So now he uses the example of learning Torah. So here we have an individual who's just learning Torah, but not that there's no kavanah. There's the wrong kavanah. It's called shelo lishma. An example is he wants to be a Talmid Chacham, he wants to be a scholarly Jew. So what happens here is that pniya, that self-interest, causes the klipat noga, the shell of noga, to be dressed up in his Torah. Because that pniya, that agenda, that interest that he has, it's a personal gain. Where is that coming from? Where does it stem from? It's not pure. It stems from klipat noga. Klipat noga, if you recall, is a mixture of good and bad. So this kind of self-interest here is coming from klipat noga. So as a result of that, klipat noga melubeshet b'torah shelo. The klipa of noga is dressed up as in his Torah. What does that do? It's not the end of the world, by the way. It's not good, but it's not the end of the world. You'll see why soon. What it does temporarily is it takes his Torah and puts it in galut. It's exiled. Because remember, when something doesn't go up, it stays behind. This one does not only stay behind, it is in the form of a trap. It's in galut. It is not where it should be. Let's just say that. But this type of a galut is a momentary galut. He could easily get out of there. In other words, the Torah could easily come out of that galut. When? When he will do teshuvah. That Torah is not lost. When a Jew does teshuvah, his Torah that was done shelo lishma, it was not done for the real sake of Hashem. It was done for the wrong reasons. It's therefore in a form of exile. But when he does teshuvah, he says, brings refuah la'olam. Teshuvah is powerful. It brings cures and remedies to the world. It does so much for the individual, for the world, that it's so powerful that it takes his Torah now through his teshuvah and is able to elevate it to a higher level, as though to the level of lishma. So in other words, when he does teshuvah, it's like the Torah doing teshuvah with him. He's returning, the Torah is returning with him. And that is why the rabbis told us a very, very important idea in encouraging every Jew to learn, even if he starts off learning not for the real reasons, Lolam yasok adam b'torah u'mitzvot shelo lishma. Shemitoch shelo lishma yavo lishma. One should always preoccupy himself, engaged in Torah and mitzvot, even if he's not doing it for L'Shem Shamayim. Even if he's doing it shelo lishma, not for the sake of him, because eventually he will end up doing it L'Shem Shamayim. That is why the Torah is so important. As the Gemara says somewhere, that Hashem said, I would not have minded so much if my children would have abandoned me, let go of the mitzvot, but would have continued to learn Torah. Because the light of the Torah would have brought them back. If a Jew continues to learn Torah, the Torah will bring him. It will remind him, it will direct him, it will show him the way. It will cool off his yetzer hara, his evil inclination. It will gladden his heart. It does so much for him, the Torah. Could you imagine how much people lose out because they don't set aside time to learn Torah every day, even 15 minutes a day? That is why they're upset at us when we head upstairs, and one of the first questions they ask, Kavat Eitim La Torah. Not only does it show loyalty, that you're steady, it was important for you. They show us a video of our entire life. You see, look at this frame when you were 27 years old. You were so upset that you hurt someone. And you did this because you were so upset, you were angry. Had you been learning Torah, that frame would not be there, that negative frame on you that now is a big stain on your soul. That is why they show us a video, because it's embarrassing. That is why they ask us, what do they have to ask us, did you learn Torah? They know everything. They have to interview us. It's because it's embarrassing. They show us this is how your life would have been so different had you learned Torah. You would never have gotten divorced perhaps, etc., etc. You know, a lot of one's life would be different if you would have been learning Torah, different in a positive way. So the rabbis tell us, get started, even if it's shelo lishma. So he adds, because what does it mean that you will eventually come to lishma? He says, you will come lishma bevadai. With certainty he will come lishma, because in the end he will do teshuvah. What do you mean in the end he will do teshuvah? Yeah, we have a pasuk that says clearly in Shemuel, Ki lo yidach mimenu nidach, Hashem will not allow any soul to get completely lost. So if he did not do teshuvah in this Gilgul, he will do teshuvah in a different Gilgul. At some point, he's going to return. Hashem offers opportunities for people to rectify their sins. So in the end, he will do teshuvah. And that, of course, will help him whenever that happens. Hopefully it will happen during his lifetime now. So the Tanya here is really bringing out two very important points. Number one, Shemitoch shelo lishma, he will come to lishma bevadai. In other words, he will come with certainty. He will eventually arrive at lishma. In other words, he's going to have progress. The learning shelo lishma right now is still going to produce progress. It's going to get him somewhere. It may take time, but it's eventually, with certainty, bevadai, he says, he will get there. Because he will do teshuvah. And what's the second important point? That even that Torah that was shelo lishma eventually will rise to the level of lishma as well. Again, as a result of teshuvah. So the Torah is able to bring this about, that eventually he will do teshuvah, eventually he will want to come back, eventually he will want to do things right, including the mitzvot, to perform them l'shem shamayim. However, here comes an interesting addition. What's the difference between plain learning versus learning a shelo lishma? We saw what shelo lishma did. The klipat noga dressed itself up in that Torah. But if a Jew, learns Torah stam, in other words, lo lishma and not shelo lishma. He doesn't do it for the sake of him, but neither does he do it not for the sake of him. In other words, opposed to the sake of him, for his own self-gain. He just learns it. He's curious about it. Then this does not require teshuvah to go up. He didn't do it for the wrong reasons. Therefore, there's no klipat noga involved over here. The shell, that impure shell, or that shell that has some impurity, called klipat noga, would not dress itself up in this Torah. This Torah is just plain learning of Torah. And therefore, even though it was done for no real reason, it was just curiosity, because he was going to school, because he was told to learn it, it's okay. Because what will happen when eventually he does learn Lishma, even without the Teshuvah, this Torah that he's learning now Lishma will be able to elevate that Torah as well. Whereas the Torah that was learned Shelo Lishma, for some self-gain, some interest, that requires Teshuvah to get it out of Klipat Noga and to rise. So this individual who's just learning Stam, for no reason, just curious, going to school, he will be able eventually to elevate that Torah that was learned for no reason, just for simple reasons. Elevate that to the level of Lishma together with his new learning that is being done Lishma. In other words, the learning that he did once upon a time, could be years ago, that was not done Lishma, it will be combined with the new Torah that he's learning now, perhaps 20 years later when he's older and smarter and more mature, and he's doing it now for the real reasons. All of that is not wasted. On the contrary, it combines in a way that they all elevate to the level of Lishma. Again, that is why it's so important to begin to learn Torah, even Shelo Lishma. And the same, he says, is true with tefillot, with prayer. Prayer without kavanah. As he says, it's brought down in the Zohar that at some point when he does pray with kavanah, all those tefillot that were done without kavanah will also be able to rise. What's interesting about this last point, and that's how he ends the perek, is that later on he tells us something very interesting. That even if throughout the year there were bits and pieces of tefillot, chalakim, that were done with kavanah, not the whole thing, pieces of tefillot that were done with kavanah, if between all of them they form a tefillah with kavanah, those pieces of kavanah will enable all the tefillot of the year to be able to rise to a high level as well and to be heard. Because tefillah now is about being heard upstairs. It's not just about, of course, thanking Hashem and praising Hashem. We have requests. And Hashem, may not listen to prayers. Of course, if the person is full of sins, as it is after the destruction of the temple, there's a big barrier. It says you need tears to get through the barriers. Or you need to pray b'minyan, you pray with kavanah, with more intent, then the prayer has a more of a stronger chance. It's not a guarantee, but at least a stronger chance. So the Chafetz Chaim says something beautiful. Somebody once asked him, Rabbi, I just cannot have any kavanah. When every time I try to pray, that evil inclination distracts me. All the business comes into my head. My travel plans gets into me. I just can't focus. I can't think about the tefillah. I just rush through it. I want to get it over with it. No kavanah whatsoever. Rabbi, what do I do? I can't have any kavanah in my tefillah. I just don't have the head for it. So the Chafetz Chaim told him something very, really special, really, really nice. Says, let me tell you the following story, mashal, parable. There was once an individual selling bagels, and the Russian army came to town, and they were hungry, the soldiers. They weren't fed. They weren't fed well. They saw his bagels, and they started snatching them away. They didn't pay him. And he was left with no money and no bagels. All right. Comes home, tells his wife his story, sits down to eat, and he asks her for dinner. And she now begins to yell at him and criticize him. Says, when you saw all the soldiers snatching away your bagels, you could have snatched for yourself one or two. At least you would have had something to eat now. You just let them take and didn't take anything for yourself? No money, no bagels. What are you going to eat now? When you see they're snatching, you snatch too. When a Jew sees that the evil inclination is snatching all his kavanot, he's not letting him have any kavanah whatsoever, snatch one prayer. Snatch one blessing. Snatch whatever you can. Take, grab. Don't just let him take everything. Wherever you can. And that is what he's going to explain to us, that there are such times that people may have kavanah here and there. If they all combine to make a prayer with kavanah, then that one prayer will hopefully give him the merit that he needs. to be able to elevate all the other prayers with it. One prayer with kavanah can make a big difference. What I'd like to finish is with something that he doesn't really say, but I would like to add. In the same way that he says that bits and pieces of prayers with kavanah all over the place can add up eventually and make the difference in elevating all the prayers, there's another idea, and this is a Kabbalistic idea as well. Famous story with Rabbi Yitzhak Barditchev, I believe, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, where one year there was a shepherd, an ignorant shepherd that came to town, wanted to be part of the community. He never learned, never knew Aleph Bet, and didn't know how to pray to Hashem. But he saw how people were very serious, fasting, dressed in white, each one with a siddur. He was obviously very despondent, sad that he couldn't participate with them and pray. He was a sincere boy, and he wanted to pray. He wanted to talk to Hashem. He actually did that all day long when he was a shepherd too, in his way. But he didn't know what to do. And he just stared at everyone and decided he's going to take out his whistle and he's going to blow. And let Hashem hear his whistle, and in heaven take the entire Aleph Bet and combine the letters into a prayer that he wants. He will just do what he can and what he knows to do. And he did it in a very, very strong way that everybody turned around and told him, "What are you doing? It's Yom Kippur, blowing a whistle?" But the rabbi stopped them all and told everyone to sit down and have something to say. You may have realized, he says, that I didn't start the prayers right away. I couldn't have, he says. I saw that the Satan had put up a big fight upstairs and didn't let any prayers go through. And it would have been pointless to pray. He was putting up a big fight. There was a big accusation against us. Our prayers were not going anywhere. Until this little child came, and through his whistle, and through his sincere, plain kavanah of asking Hashem to combine the Aleph Bet into a prayer that he wishes, it was his whistle that broke through the barrier upstairs, and through his whistle, all our prayers rose as well. The prayer, the whistle, the kavanah of a little child. We see from many, many stories that simple people, simple kavanot, pure intent, from individuals who were not so knowledgeable, but they feared heaven on their level. Nonetheless, it was pure and it was completely for the sake of Hashem, as with this child. Look what it did. Here we're saying that an individual's own prayers can be combined and perhaps elevate all the prayers of his ear. Look at this. I use this as an example, is that one individual can elevate the prayers of the entire city and perhaps the entire world. And that is the beauty of the prayer of children under the age of Bar Mitzvah, because they're pure. If they answer Amen Yesh Merabah, they have to be reminded of the importance of the prayer, the importance of Amen. It's the purity of the children that makes a difference. Even though they're not yet the age of Bar Mitzvah, still it's sincere. Another example of how sincerity and pure kavanah can make the world of a difference, whether the tefillah or not, whether the tefillah will be accepted or not. In the end, we know that those who shed tears, those who try hard, those who continue and do not give up and really mean what they say, that Hashem listens to them. It could be that He does not answer their prayers right now. The tears are not lost. It says that there's a special storage house for those tears, and it could be that if they were not used for this individual, they will be used for his child or grandchild. That's called Zchut Avot, the merit of parents and grandparents. And sometimes down the road, it was the grandfather, the grandmother who shed tears before she lit candles of Shabbat, that her children and grandchildren should remain Jewish. Because of her, that child was awakened to come back. So we should never underestimate the koach of tears, the koach, the power of kavanah and the tefillah. It's not anymore just about the reward upstairs, which is immense, because it's a more complete mitzvah. It's even in this world, it accomplishes a lot. And here, we see an incredible accomplishment that he did not even mention here. And that is what one individual can do for others, because Kol Yisrael Arevin Ze Lazeh. We're all responsible for each other. One sin can hurt us all. One mitzvah can tip the scales and help us all. And that is why it's important to emphasize the idea of prayer b'kavanah, because imagine if everybody, or a good number of people, got together and called out to Hashem, we want Mashiach now, with complete sincerity, I'm sure B'ezrat Hashem Mashiach will come. Amen.
Amen.